Hello, this is Formula One Fans of America, episode 13. Let's get into it, guys. So we've got drama going on in Mercedes. We're in the middle of a lull part of the season, waiting for the Las Vegas Grand Prix, which I am extremely excited for. We also got some very good news for our show. So we are going to have some fun in Vegas. Fabian, I'm sorry you can't come, man. Next year, though, we'll do Miami, or we'll do Mexico City, or one of the.
Megan wants to go to Miami, so we're definitely going to
we'll make
Miami.
it happen.
Yep.
Jay, let's do Miami then. Miami 2025. Jay, I will hopefully see you for Spa 2025 because good news for you. Lots of life events happening for everybody.
Yeah. We got Spa, Zandvoort, Silverstone.
Spa and Zandvoort.
What else? I'm not touching anything in Italy. Like, not going to happen. I'm good without that in my life.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
So we've got at least.
I eventually want to go to Monaco, but I think I'll do that when maybe I'm more financially.
I don't want to feel. Yeah, I would just feel so poor all the time.
So
Monaco.
you do realize that
especially
once you get off of the main strip of Monaco, like it's not Richie territory there.
Yeah, no, I know, but everything for F1.
Oh well,
is going to make you feel so poor.
Good point. I mean, going to
you kind of feel that way going to. I was going to say you almost feel that way going to any F1 race.
That's true.
And I think I've said it before on this show, but F1, as far as putting on an event and organizing an event, does it to the level of Disney World. Like they think about every single facet of the fan experience. It's one of the best events, like sporting events you could ever go to. Everything from like line lengths, for restrooms and food and everything is well thought through. And you generally don't wait in line for much of anything. It's a really, really great event to go to. It's why I'm so excited for Vegas. I'm going to go see some buddies from Afghanistan and take lots of pictures and videos. And actually, I will be recording from Vegas post race because then I have to try and sell all my shit and move. So there's some drama going on with Mercedes, and we're seeing it unfold now. Like the closer it gets to Lewis's departure. Jay, you and I talked about this, but like he was openly hostile during like media events and driving events and complaining about how he had to wait for 4 hours and like why he had to show up early and like didn't want to listen. Like basically was just like a non-participant. Like you could tell absolutely he did not want to be there. And this was like 2 years ago, well before the Ferrari announcement came out. And so we were speculating like Lewis and Toto don't necessarily have the buddy relationship that they appear to like in the media. They do a good job of managing media and answering questions and things like that. I think Toto is not as conniving as Horner, but is quite close when it comes to managing and manipulating media and media's like attention. So it is funny now that, well, not necessarily funny, but interesting at least to see how their relationship has sort of devolved, I guess. What do you got, Jay?
So I will say this right now. Lewis is a diva. I've said this numerous fucking times. Like to be an F1 driver, I'm pretty sure you just have to be a diva to begin with. He hides it very well, but at the end of the day, he's still one of the best athletes on the planet. So he's going to have that attitude about him, everything like that. Toto working with that for as many years as he has, probably gets on your last fucking nerve to begin with. 2, that relationship started failing whenever they dropped Bottas in favor of George. Like, I really think that pissed off Lewis till no end. Because if you remember during the 21...
I don't want to derail you, but I want to touch on something that you were making a point of, that like F1 drivers almost have to be divas, right? Like you almost have to be a certain and specific way. Do you think that also exists with team principals? Right?
Yeah.
like
Oh, absolutely.
Chono and
Anyone that exists
yeah, exactly.
have an
Huge
ego.
egos for both, I think. So
I think so.
So go ahead, Jay.
So what I was getting at there is that relationship was already fractured. There was a lot of talks last season during silly season that Lewis was going to go to Ferrari. And it never came to fruition because Mercedes offered him the 1+1. And now all of a sudden, like in February, it's like, oh, Lewis is going to Ferrari. Wait, what? Like he literally just signed his contract. What the fuck? And it all came down to that, I think it started breaking at the Bottas situation. And it continued on because they favored George because George is the future of that team. And I mean, it makes sense. I mean, the thing about it that I think got most people really pissed off, though, with the whole interview is them saying that everybody has a shelf life, which is absolutely fucking true. You know, I mean, Rich, could you imagine 40-year-old us still doing the same dumb shit we were doing in our early 20s? Like, there's no fucking way. And I mean, at some point, your body literally starts to break.
because I still do it.
Not to the degree we were doing it in our
Fernando
early 20s,
Alonso,
So-
like
so-
I have to rebut it and push
Go ahead.
back against that because you can look at that man. You know, you can look and see what he's doing at his age. I do
The last
not
time
disagree
Fernando-
with you that everybody has their shelf life. And I think you're absolutely correct. And I think Fernando's beyond his shelf life. I think Checo's beyond his shelf life. I think Lewis is beyond his shelf life. I think once you start to get into your 30s, and this is, you know, sort of the tug and pull back and forth between the youth in young drivers and the talent, the acuity, the, you know, just the energy level that's all there for an early 20s something athlete versus someone in their 30s. And then balancing that with the experience, the knowledge, and, you know, a full career of, you know, 8 to 10 plus years in Formula One racing, and how this is why these guys are still around, you know, because of all of that experience. But you're absolutely right with the shelf life. And to call that out, though, like, can you imagine like that's like an NFL coach calling out their quarterback in a press conference? Like you tend to not do that. You really don't want to do that because this is big egos on both sides. And
Right. Let me say something about the diva thing, because I'm very literal when it comes to words and what they mean and the context of things. A diva is somebody that's temperamental and difficult to please. Lewis was not difficult to please. Lewis has been very easy to please. You give Lewis a great car and he drives the wheels off the car. Okay. Up to 2021, which is only 3 years removed, right? Lewis was driving his ass off in a competitive car. The Red Bull was a better car. They also had a younger driver who was hungrier for his first title. Right?
But with Formula One too,
Mhm.
it's not just about your ability to drive the car. It's about you marketing the team and making the team more marketable. I feel like Mercedes has to basically twist Lewis's arms to get him to do anything like marketable really for the team. Like a lot of it is now like a big social media push. They do all these like social media challenges, like media day is all these games. You'll see George do them almost no problem. He'll basically bend to Toto's whim whenever he wants. But Lewis, like, you hardly ever really see him participate. And unfortunately, the game is changing where it's not just your ability to drive the car.
But Lewis's existence by itself is marketing.
But Lewis is not marketing Mercedes. He's marketing Lewis.
He's also marketing the brands that are just sponsoring him versus the entire team, which is huge. Now, what I mean by the diva thing is you're taking this word very literal, like by definition, and I understand that completely. However, you can look back all throughout his career, and there has been little signs. He is an amazing person that he can mask it as much as he does. Now, if you look at 2016, whenever him and Rosberg were going at it constantly, he was a bitch, like straight up bitch. 2019 with Sebastian Vettel, also once again was being a pretty big bitch. His McLaren days, it was fewer and far between, but you could still see exactly the pattern of behavior. Like, you can tell whenever Lewis is frustrated about the car versus frustrated about what the team is actually doing, because there is a very big difference in that. If your car sucks, but your team is still acknowledging that you're their number one driver, you're their number one priority, and they're going to listen to you, yes, you're going to have a completely different attitude and a way about you than you are is if your car sucks, your team's not paying attention to what you're saying because you're on your way out. Like, let's be real here. At the end of 2021, Lewis was going to retire. Either he hit 8 or he didn't hit 8, and he was going to retire at that point. All signs pointed towards it, to include his personal trainer fucking leaving. Like, legitimately, all the writing was on the wall there. That is why George got brought up. Now, Lewis went full radio silent, and I'm not saying I blame him at all. If I would have lost the championship in that way, I would have done the same fucking thing. No questions asked. But at the end of the day, he went media silence for 3 months. 3 months is a long time, especially in Formula One, where you have, a total of 6 months of a break, maybe at most. And that's including all the off weeks in between.
Okay.
So him doing that was just, I'm not going to call it petulant child, because, like I said, I would have done the same thing if I would have lost the championship in that way. I would have been pissed, especially knowing that my wingman is now gone as well. So every time that Lewis now hops on the radio and says I think he's made 1 or 2 good comments about the car since halfway through 2021. I mean, at some point, as a team principal, you have to fucking be like, okay, if you don't want to fucking be here, get the fuck out. Like, I'm sick of fucking hearing you bitch. And literally, we heard that from Toto last year. Whenever he goes, yes, Lewis, we know the car sucks. Deal with it. Just drive.
I was going to say, Toto has acknowledged that the car wasn't the car that he deserved to be driving, right? Like, he acknowledged the failures in the car. It is a lot, I think, and it boils down to ego and ego management, and someone who enjoyed success for so many years and having to learn to deal with failure and not being on the podium for almost 2 years, like 18 months.
Right.
All of this plays into some of the things that we like to discuss, though, when it comes to the mentality and the mindset of these drivers and the motivation and being as sharp as you possibly can, because it is any given Sunday at this point. The margins, especially towards the later part of the season, the margins in the cars sort of come closer and closer. And so it really boils down to driver talent, mental acuity, who's going to really bring it mentally that day. And if you're dissatisfied and frustrated and something's lingering in the back of your mind, I think we're going to see it play out the way that we did with Lewis and Mercedes.
Do you think Toto's also kind of pissed because But do you think he's also kind of pissed because of the timing of the announcement? Like, I did read somewhere that it really messed with his ability to actually get an experienced driver signed to his team because contracts were already going.
Absolutely. Because, I mean, Leclerc and fucking Lando, both, and Oscar. Oscar signed a contract right around that time too, didn't he, Fabian? I can't remember.
Yeah.
I think so.
So literally, you had 3 of the top drivers on the grid that were all out of contract and could have came in. And you wouldn't have had to challenge anybody to try to get these contracts.
But it's no drivers, including Max's. It's no driver's responsibility to be concerned about the downrange front end office of a team that they're looking at leaving. That is not their responsibility.
I disagree with that. Hold on. Hear me out.
Go ahead.
Hear me out on this one.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you are as ingrained into that team as Lewis was, let's be real here. 8 world championships or 8 constructors championships during his time. He literally came over whenever they started up.
Too.
Shut the fuck up. Anyways, he literally started that brand because Niki Lauda came up to him and was like, I want you here. Lewis had a ton of pull. it was disrespectful as fuck to not just be like, I'm going to do this at summer break. I don't know why he didn't sign at summer break at that point. Because
so I see it from both ends, from what both of you are saying. There's no loyalty in Formula One, and we've seen that over and over again, right? And as a driver, you really only have to look out for one person and one person only. You guys have corrected me when I talk about this when it comes to like team strategy and being a good teammate and following team orders, and the reason why I will criticize people who don't, because I do agree with you, Jay. Like, you do look out for the long-term benefit of the team. And if you are the man, then you be the man. You are that team's like person. It's smart, business wise, to look out for the benefit of the company and the people who pay your bills. I think all of us know that. We're professional enough to know that, like, yeah, you take care of the company because hopefully they will take care of you. But I also agree that, like, the company ain't going to take care of you. Mercedes-AMG doesn't give a fuck about Lewis Hamilton after he leaves, Maybe in this instance, it's not the best example, but like in other cases in Formula One, and we've seen it with AMG, right? With Bottas, they didn't give a fuck about him, so look out for numero uno.
That's another part of what factors into all that. And we see this in other sports. We can bring every other sport into play and go to an A-lister personality or a participant contributor to a sport. The likelihood, the only logical explanation would be that by the time he even got to the point where that became a thing to announce, to execute the contract, there were already very obvious signs that they were yet again going to field a shitty car.
Yeah. Like, I criticize it and I hate it, for sports and as a fan. But at the same time, I'm happy for that athlete. I'm happy that they're going and getting paid and getting paid, what they're valued at. So as a fan, it sucks, but I would do the same exact thing, No offense, but ESPN Unlapped could come and offer me a contract and I'll ditch y'all. I love you guys, but if they're gonna wave money at me and tell me I can go do my dream job, I'm gonna go do my dream job.
Anyways, but here's the thing: is that Lewis didn't do this for money at all. Like, granted, that is a huge chunk of money, and I'm not taking away from what it is. But at the same time, if he would have went to Mercedes and been like, "Look, this is what I want. I want the same contract that Ferrari's getting ready to give me. Can you match it? If you can't, I'm going to Ferrari. If you can even come within $20 million of it, I'll stay here." And I guarantee you they would have fucking done anything to get him into that ambassador role, because that's literally what they were doing is,
yeah.
And I believe Toto came on record even and said, we were going to give him an ambassador role, but we have to set it up that whenever he wants to be done, this way we can get him right into the ambassador role. Mm-hmm. We don't want to be on the hook that counts against the cap. It counts against everything else. Like, that makes sense in my mind. Because you're doing it to protect your business.
Do you think, since it's not a financial decision, and I agree with you on that, do you think it was the personal decision, the rift between him and the relationship that he had with Toto and why it devolved? And yeah, I think that's what we've been digging at all along, right? Is just the two of them, for whatever reason, a rift started to form. And whether it's dissatisfaction with Toto, and Lewis complaining to him all the time about the car, whether it was dissatisfaction on Lewis's end from the car, either way, it definitely created a noticeable rift between the two of them that was lingering for years, right? Like, this wasn't a weekday decision, or a month time frame decision. This was coming about for, a couple years before it finally happened. So we'll see what Lewis will do at Ferrari.
That really started unbalancing everything.
Shit.
Say that again?
I said, do you think it was Nikki's death that started unbalancing everything?
It could absolutely be a factor in that. And the relationship
really
that he has with the brand and the company. Yeah.
2020 wasn't really a season. 21, he had his hands full at Max. 22 is the first time where he could actually sit down and process it and see how the team was functioning now. And then he has fucking George Russell floating around and doing all the dumb shit. And Toto's like, oh, we love George. You know, like, it takes its toll.
Yeah.
I mean, we could have, hell, this could all still be stemming from 2016. You know, like, he could be looking back at 2016, where if you guys would have just fucking called the team orders, I would have 8 right now. And you wouldn't even have to be worrying about me. I'd be serving in Nikki's role right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It is
that's
very
definitely
significant,
possible.
interesting point. But and I agree with you. This was years. Yeah, this was years of brewing, and something
Because,
like
well,
that. You know, a significant death in the relationship and tie that he has to the company. If after Nikki's gone, his relationship with the company is probably not as good.
What were you saying?
Yeah,
Nick?
Sorry for cutting
but
you off,
also
Nick.
when
Go
you no, you're good. But like also it's just normal too. Whenever things start to sour, you start looking at everything from a new light. Like the rose tinted glasses come off, so everything that you would have been fine with before kind of starts compounding. So it very well could be going back, like Jay said, and just everything like before that wouldn't bother him just gets added to the tally, and now he's like, fuck this.
I mean, that makes sense because if you look at Max most of this season, since when he stopped winning, he was complaining about the car every race, all race long. Like, I mean, and then even in the in the aftermath between the races, it was constantly, we're not going to win anymore. The car. This is the normal thing for a Formula One driver, right? I mean, if the car isn't right, they're going to say so because they don't want to look like they're all of a sudden overnight incompetent. You know, they don't want to give a tell that maybe there's some degradation in their skill or anything like that. So instinctively, the first finger gets pointed at the car, certainly, right? And then, of course, when Max won in Sao Paulo, he's like, fucking car was great today, felt good, it felt great to be out there. You know, the normal thing you would expect to see. If he has 3 more races like the ones he had prior to Sao Paulo, it's going to be back on, we had a good day that day, the rain gave us an advantage, but the car still sucks. And then the rumors will start swirling again about Max possibly going somewhere else. This is the environment and the climate of what's going on in Formula One. I really, honestly, truthfully, and I've really been thinking about this a lot lately. And it ties back to these recent stories, these Instagram posts and things that you've been seeing a lot about mental health. There's been a lot of conversation bubbling up about mental health. And the lead champion of that conversation in every single instance has been Lewis. So what that tells me is that 2016, I don't think is where his mind is, although that's a fair point that 2016 could have ended it and his whole life would be different, 4 years after that in 2020. But it looks like 2021 really, really shook him up, like badly. And it's not necessarily a mental or physical talent issue as much as it is his world got rocked, his heart got broken. I mean, if you look at the juxtaposition of the radio silence in Abu Dhabi that continued, as Jay pointed out, for months, and look at the jubilation of Silverstone, that it tells you a very interesting story about where Lewis's head and heart has been for a long time. And it seems to be that the only solution that he was able to come up with is basically a reboot, a restart, which is a whole new scene, whole new digs, whole new environment, whole new team, just a renewed focus on everything. And the darkness of what occurred in 2021 is something that he has not really been able to shed. And so it's more of a mental thing than anything else in his estimation. That's what it appears to be, which is why he's looking at this as let's wipe the slate clean and let's do a fresh restart. I think he'd be happy to win a couple of Grand Prix at Ferrari and he'll be happy at this point because he can't stay locked in and focused enough to get it done where he is anymore.
Yeah, do you think it's part of the shelf life thing? And then also, I reluctantly agree with you. Unfortunately, I wanted to see him get that 8th championship like so bad, but like Jay's right. He's not going to win a championship with Ferrari. I just don't think he will. Unfortunately, it sucks. But how many years do you guys think? So, like in light of all of this discussion and what we're talking about with him, how many years do you think he'll stay at Ferrari? I'm saying 2. 2. That's what I got too, Jay. Yeah, agreed. Megan, what do you think?
I would think 3.
3 years? Okay.
I think 3.
I want to say his
depending on
contract's
the car.
2 +
So
1, isn't it?
I believe it is a 2+1 contract. So like he's definitely going to try to do 2 years, I would assume. You know, like we're not going to see him do 1 season. I believe it will be dependent on the performance of the car and how performant that car is.
Absolutely.
If the car is good
Absolutely.
and he's got a shot to make podiums the way that he likes to, then I think he'll stay for the 3rd year and chase that 8th championship.
Absolutely.
Or 9th, depending on who you ask.
Well, here's the interesting thing, though. Keep this in mind. Year 3, it's a different car. Year 3, it's another clean slate. So he's got 2 opportunities.
Yep.
Wait, doesn't the car come out in 2026?
Yes.
So 2026,
So-
which would be year 2.
So
So
that would be
because-
year 2.
Right. That's year 2. Right.
Year
so,
2.
So in 2025, he's got a
Exactly.
clean slate. He's with a new team. He gets the shot there. And then in 2026, it's another clean slate. And it
New
just
regs.
seems like it just seems like, because, he benefited from new regs. What was it? What year was that? When they went-
2014.
2014. Okay.
2014.
He benefited from that then. So, it just seems like there's some calculated stuff going on there to just basically try to just take a deep breath, get a reset, and move on with the mission and see if he can get mission accomplished. That's what it seems like. But
It's interesting how.
Go ahead.
Keep going. Sorry.
The conversation about the mental health thing is what's really, really noticeable to me. And bringing in Sebastian Vettel, bringing Max in. Max has jumped in on this conversation too, right? And
Who posted or
understandably
sent
so.
the video with the F1 drivers all commenting on mental health?
I posted it. I posted that
Okay.
on our page. And that's not the first one that we have about this. The first one was a couple of months ago, and Lewis was the focal point of that one entirely. It was one of those public service announcement styled things where I got to get this off my chest. I want to talk about the fact that when we break bones, we go to doctors to fix them. But when our minds get broken, we tend to
Yes.
just cover it up. Right.
Just bottle it
And
up.
then
Yeah.
subsequent to that, we got this new one, and you've got all these other guys involved, including Ocon. I mean, Albon was on it.
Stroll.
I think Grosjean was on it. Stroll was on it.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, Stroll's had some struggles. Max had some struggles. You start looking at it and how they're piecing this together. I think it's a really good, fair, and important conversation. And to see Max jump on board too, I thought was really impressive.
I want to hit on that specifically. As somebody who thoroughly enjoys criticizing Lance Stroll, I really do. He's an easy target.
He makes it easy.
It just is what it is.
He's
Yeah,
the low hanging.
made it-
He's the low hanging fruit of F1.
It is, but I want to caveat it, and I want to mention it, and it is definitely worth mentioning, especially to me, and especially in this conversation about mental health and drivers and the criticism that they all face. What else would he do? Like if I was in his shoes and my father was a billionaire, like, yeah, you got all of the opportunities. If he's anything less than perfect or a Formula One champion, or he misses a podium, he's all automatically viewed as just a spoiled rich brat whose dad bought him into the sport, irrespective of his actual talent. Okay, because he is a very talented driver and he can win. Like we in this conversation about mental health and mental acuity and the concentration and focus, Lance Stroll can fucking podium if he's sharp enough and on the right weekend. He can do it. It's absolutely impossible for him to be viewed as anything else than a spoiled brat and anything else than, the narrative and the story's already written for him. The best he can do is try to beat that And unless he's anything other than the best in podiuming and scoring points every weekend, the entire world is going to look at him that way and write that narrative for him. And
Okay,
so
I could
to
normally
a
get
point,
behind
like
that.
I have to empathize with him and just know, like, if I was in his shoes, I would do the same thing. And I would want my dad to buy an F1 team and want me to be there as well and to support me.
But I could normally get behind that, but it's the arrogance and lack of situational awareness that he just kind of spews out on a normal basis. Where if it was just like, okay, yeah, I am fortunate. Like my dad did buy me a team. I am, for all intents and purposes, I'm a paid driver. Fine. I do my best. I may not be the best driver out there, but I do my best. But when he screws up, it's usually his fault, which everyone else can see it's his fault, but he cannot see that it is his fault.
So I actually disagree with that. I think he knows that it is exactly his fault. He's just going to be like every other driver where 90% of the time they are not admitting anything is their fault. We were literally just talking about how everything is wrong with the car, but yet there's so much wrong with Lewis's car, but yet George won in Brazil in 22.
Harkening back to the original discussion of F1 drivers are like, do you have to have the ego, right? Like this is the ego he has to have to just exist in the sport and be an F1 driver. So again, like I can't fault him. I would probably be the exact same way. And honestly, I would probably be much worse than him. I would be even worse of a spoiled little brat, an entitled piece of shit. Like I would have no self-awareness, and I'd like, you all could suck my dick. My dad bought Aston Martin. Like, fuck you. Fuck off.
Like, why not just ride on that though, and just be like, I don't give a fuck. My dad bought me a team. Suck it.
I don't know. Maybe you can invest in some Ryan Holiday. A little stoicism. Ego is the Enemy is a good book by Ryan Holiday. Quick plug for him. But I believe that it is just the implicit ego that he has to have to be a competitive Formula One driver, and also just being born and raised into it. Like, you know, he didn't ask for this, right? Like this is just his life, and he has to live it to his utmost and do his best, which I believe he does. And so, for as much shit as I love to give Stroll,
has he said anything about beaching so far? I haven't seen anything come out.
I think he did comment on it. I think he did actually.
Did he?
All right.
What
so
did he say?
Now,
I'm sorry.
I mean, it was quite clear. Like he had like the spatial awareness. The criticism that I've personally leveraged against him is that he just doesn't have any spatial awareness or sense of direction sometimes, and he has like no sense of
situational awareness. No situational awareness.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, like he didn't understand where he was, and they just. I can't excuse the driving into the gravel. Okay, I can't.
Right.
Like
I will say
I
this
tried.
now.
I want to be like, oh, maybe I would have done that too. No, I wouldn't.
Somebody
No.
literally was just
You
like,
wouldn't
I don't
have
think
been
he wanted
able
to race
keep it
in
on
the
track
rain.
that long, motherfucker.
So just to
Okay,
close
Jay,
out
what
my
did he
comments,
say?
I fucking love. I
Okay,
love Lance
I haven't-
Stroll. I think he's a good kid, and I think he's doing the best that he can in the situation and circumstances that he's been born into. And so,
Oh, and there's
shout out to
such
Lance Stroll.
terrible
I hope I get to talk to him
circumstances.
someday. Okay, but I would be just like him.
I will say
I
this
hope you
now.
would be way worse.
So I will say this now. Rich kids do have their own problems, like
They do. Of course
legitimately,
they do.
and everything like that. Now, I was sitting there listening to another podcast earlier last week where they were talking about Lance Stroll and all of his many, many fuck ups. But they also talked, just like we have in the past, about the beginning of last year. That kid was on fucking fire. He does not. I'm trying to think of the right way to word this.
Something happened with
If
him.
Lance
man.
Stroll actually gave a shit about driving that F1 car, he could arguably be one of the greatest drivers on that track. But he doesn't.
This is
he does not care.
This is the crux of my point is that he's not talentless. Like he absolutely can podium. He has all of the talent to do it. I do think it's a concentration mental acuity. But keep going, Jay. Sorry to derail your point. I think I'm coinciding with you.
Oh, sure.
But
So realistically, he's there. He got into F1 for a reason. Yes, there are paid drivers. Yes, there is this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, he was with another team for 2 or 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, before Lawrence bought out that team. And he wasn't doing bad at all. Like, I think there's so much pressure.
Yeah.
No, Alpine's the former Renault. Wait, isn't it? Hold on. What was Aston Martin before it was Aston Martin?
Wasn't it like the?
So what was the team that was like Force India after like that Force India drama?
Force India.
They bought
Force India was Aston Martin.
Pink and
Renault
white
was
team,
Alpine.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then so his dad did buy a Formula One team and then bought another, like British.
Well, who was Racing Point? Was who? That was Aston Martin.
Point was okay. So that's where we're going. So yeah. So he had already bought his way into the sport. He also bought his F3 team, didn't he? Didn't his dad buy the F3 team?
I think so.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure his dad bought the F3 team to get him into the sport, and then bought the F1 team.
Does Jay want to share with the class?
Yes,
that's some interesting shit. No, I'm not sharing my screen.
No, I mean like what you just read.
Jordan is the original BWT Racing. I did not know that.
Oh.
That's some shit. But you were right. BWT.
I didn't know that either.
Turn into
That's awesome.
Renault.
Yeah.
In 2019, whenever they recruited. Wait, no, hold on. Disregard on that. Yeah, no, I was right. Am I? This is written like a 5-year-old wrote this. I'm sorry. Anyways, so no, I was right. They did turn into Aston Martin, but they had Omar on there as their team principal or one of the team, and that's what was throwing me off. So,
man, shout out to him for being a fucking amazing human being and coming out of his own pocket to pay people's salaries when the team couldn't. Omar was like one of the kindest humans in the fucking sport, and like that's actually, and even like Williams is acknowledged too. Like they didn't pay their drivers, like we don't have any money to pay them. Shout out to Omar for coming again, digging in his own pockets, paying the salary of his staff, and taking care of people. When we do talk about the loyalty in the sport and loyalty to your team, that's when you give it back, right? Like if somebody's going to do that, if your team principal is going to dig into his own pockets to pay salaries for your staff, then you fucking show up and show out for them no matter what, because that's the only time in this sport where you're going to see loyalty to that level and a dedication to like your team. Like if I was a driver on his team, I would never leave him ever. Like I would just, he would be my team principal wherever he went. And I would fucking not even take a salary to go drive for him because his character and quality of human being is that he is. It's rare to see that.
Renault did him
in the pinnacle of motorsports, but it absolutely did. But yeah, especially with such a great human being as he is, like that sucked. And thankfully he's still working in around Formula One and will continue to be, and he'll always have a job, I think, because of the loyalty and character that he displays, I think is what will keep him in the sport forever.
Definitely. Okay, so back to what we were saying though, as far as everything's concerned. You have so many drivers that drive for different reasons. Max for child abuse, Lewis for respect, like Oscar just because I really think Oscar and Danny really just did it out of the love for the sport. Yuki, something to prove. Joe Granu, something to prove. Valtteri Bottas loves the fucking sport and didn't want to go out with the mental health issues that he had coming from Mercedes. Like, literally, you can nail down everything except for pretty much 2 drivers on the grid. And both those 2 drivers are from rich families. Like, why are they even doing this at this point? Like, Lando after this year really has to realize, I think, he doesn't have it. It's that simple. Like, I know there's been a lot of people hating on the what was it, Brundle that said it, I think. That
Do you think he can get it though? Do you think he'll never have it? He'll never
tried
have
the
it.
bad guy arc. He tried the villain arc this year and he sucked at it.
I think
Lando-
if Max continues to struggle, Lando can. Like if Max is in a worse car, in a worse performing car, I think Lando has a chance. Although with the way Oscar's driving, probably not.
I think
So
we're
you
about to
have-
see Oscar rise.
You have
Like
Oscar.
because he doesn't
You have
he doesn't give a shit about anything but driving the car.
next year, and this is a big if, Red Bull does not figure out what the fuck they're doing. Okay. You still have Aston Martin that's going to be heavily influenced by fucking Adrian Newey. So you have Fernando Alonso right there, who is pissed, who showed last year that he still has everything that it possibly could take in order to get a championship. He's still that same prick that will run you into the corner and not give a fuck. You have Oscar, who will be in the same kind of car as Lando is, and is not going to give him any fucking quarter. There will be no papaya rules next year. You might see another repeat of 2016, actually. You have Charles, who's still out to fucking do some fucking damage. Like, let's be real here. And then finally, you have Lewis, who still wants that 8th world title. All you need is one driver probably next year to pick up 4 races, and they're going to win. You have 4 drivers right there that are all capable of winning world championships. Like, quite literally, you have those 4. And you still have the dark horse that is Max Verstappen. Like, I know we may joke around and everything like that about the sprinklers. I want to fucking see this shit happen. Just 3 races out of the year. That's all I'm asking for. Is randomly during the race, flip these bitches on and let's see who can actually do the dance. That's what I want to see. He's not wrong, though.
It does feed back into the whole ego thing, but he just hasn't really done anything much to prove that he deserves the ego.
So here's the big thing with Liam. He has to have that fucking ego coming out. Like, straight out of the gate. Because that's how Max did it. Max had that fucking ego. That's how Seb did it. He had that fucking ego. Like,
But you notice the common denominator there, Jay? The common denominator is, interestingly, Red Bull. They got to have that ego because Colapinto doesn't have to have that ego. And look what he's doing. He's way
Dude,
more
Carlo
popular.
Pinto has a fucking ego the size of fucking Argentina. Shut the fuck up with that
not
one.
the one that you're describing. and
Every
not the types
F1
that you're
driver has
describing.
an ego. I
Right.
agree with Fabian.
Not
I
the
do
brand
not
that you're-
believe that. Yes,
not the brand
I do
that
not
you're
believe he has
describing.
a Red Bull level ego.
Right.
And I do think that it plays into exactly what you're both saying and you both agree on, which is if you're a Red Bull F1 driver, you're on the pinnacle team this day and age right now. This is a premier team. You have to have that ego. You have to. Like, you won't succeed in
You
the
know what,
sport
though?
without it. Like, really. I think we're all in agreement on this, though. Like, every F1 driver, every F1 team principal, everybody
absolutely.
who's at the pinnacle level of this sport, which is the pinnacle of motorsport, is going to have that ego. To think that they wouldn't is like almost insolent or ignorant. Like, you know that these guys are going to have their ego. It's just how well they manage it. So let's talk about Oscar Piastri and the way that he manages his ego, because I think he does it better than anybody else on the grid. And I believe that is
Rich,
why
I
he
still
will
want
be a
my-
future champion.
I want my Rise of Piastri Star Wars graphic. Rich, get on that,
Okay.
please.
Okay. I'll work on it. Yep.
Piastri is the most interesting man in the room to me for so many
I
reasons.
think so.
I
Freaking
keep
love
saying
him.
that he is the Michael. Hold on, guys. I keep saying that he is the Michael Corleone of Formula
Yep.
One, for real.
He's going to come in and take it over quietly, with his quiet behavior and like demeanor.
Okay, well,
I was gonna
first
say,
of all,
if you say demure, I'm gonna punch you in the fucking throat.
he is not demure. He is monotonous.
No,
He
he's
just
he's
says what
very
he wants.
understated, low key. He will, not to cut you
No,
off,
the
sorry,
way
Meg, but
he
like
says it. First of all, it's the way he delivers it is low key, but the words he says scream, "I
cheeky.
don't give a fuck."
Is cheeky, is strategical. I believe he gets his point across and he makes his point and he knows the point that he's making. And so I will agree with you. He knows
No.
exactly what he's saying and why he's saying it.
Oh yeah,
Go ahead,
his little jabs are fucking phenomenal. Like
Exactly.
if Oscar
Right. It's
does not
passive
end up in
aggressive
a
at
Red
its
Bull
finest.
seat, if he does not end up in a Red Bull seat before the end of his career, I will be fucking shocked because he is exactly what Red Bull tries to go after. Like he may not be as in your face
I asked
as
the
Seb or
question.
Max or
I asked the question before, I think, to you guys, like, could we see him as a replacement of Checo? Because
depends on how
I
next
think
year
we
goes.
should. Yeah. Okay. And that's fair, right? Like it, but like I want to have that discussion and conversation with you guys because Mercedes is well known for maintaining the face of the brand, right? Like we talked about this. This is the reason why they called George up and they went with George over Valtteri. It was because they felt that George, as a British F1 driver, was a better face for the brand and was going to be the succession to Lewis. I believe that was the business decision that they made. If you disagree with me, completely willing to hear you out. But I think that they knew, like, especially when we harken back to the conversation earlier when we talk about shelf life of drivers, I think they knew Lewis was on his way out and they were looking for the next Lewis. They still have not found the next Lewis, right? Like, I think they're still looking. I do think that they would look Oscar's way as the next Lewis, the next face of the brand, because they need a face for the brand, right? George isn't really doing it for them, right? George was not the next Lewis. Oscar could be.
I think they're funneling.
Oscar could be the next Lewis Hamilton in the right car.
No, I think they're fielding everything towards Kimi.
Yeah,
They can literally groom and grow him into whatever they need him to be. He's fast. He's a strong driver. He's young. They're buying out his loyalty early.
So
I really think that they're just going to use like a year or two. Huh?
There was like I said Antonelli, not Raikkonen. There was like a 3-second moment of confusion in my brain when I was like, what are you, Kimi? What?
Kimi's back?
We're talking about Antonelli. No, yeah. Kimi Räikkönen is on a boat somewhere drinking beer with his bros or doing whatever he enjoys doing now. Yeah. Carry on, Meg. Sorry.
No, but I think they are grooming him to be the next Lewis and the next face of Mercedes. I think they're going to have George kind of play the role for probably a year or two until they get a little more experience under Kimi's belt and he grows more into being an unstoppable driver. And then George is going to be out.
Absolutely. And I think I said as much recently.
I mean, we talked about it like a week or two
I was
ago?
going to say, we've had this conversation a week or two ago about the Mercedes driver, about George Russell, about whether he should have been brought up from Williams or not. And we're kind of revisiting the topic.
Yeah. I think they would go after Oscar because again, it's not just your performance on the grid, it's your marketability.
Yep.
And Oscar doesn't really give two shits. Like anytime he's posted on something with McLaren, everyone's asking, like, what did you have to give him to do this?
His parents are pretty well off too, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't his dad like a billionaire or something? Or what does his dad do? His dad's successful.
I want to say they're like 5 to 10 million or something. I can't remember.
Okay. Well, he's still a successful businessman, not a billionaire.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not taking it away from him. I'm just not saying it's
King Daddy Dick.
I'm not saying
he's not the 500th richest, person in his country.
Right. Check. But so he comes from beans from Australia, right? So like he doesn't necessarily need to care,
No.
Like
no, he wants to drive.
this
That's all
is
he wants.
yeah, exactly. He wants to be a race car driver. He's a very great race car driver. This also jogs my mind about when we talked about like it's basically the trolling of billionaires is what the sport's becoming, and how Lewis is reaching down and doing his best to write it into the contract and probe the FIA to make the sport more accessible to disadvantaged income kids and like people without necessarily the means and the billions of dollars.
Well, and if you think about it, like a lot of the greats did not come from money. If they were trying to get into F1 now, all of them say they would have never made it. They could have never afforded to make it.
I believe the integrity of the sport is in jeopardy as a result of the cost cap of entry and getting in. And shout out to Lewis Hamilton. And this is why I'm such a huge fan and supporter of him, is because he's doing what he can to try and change and adjust that. Come in, Jay. I know you got a thought.
Yeah, I saw it brewing.
Yeah, come on in, bro.
So, as far as Oscar goes, we keep on comparing him to Kimi. Like, literally, all of us have done it, everything like that. And it's hard not to, because his demeanor is very much that of Kimi. But
not his driving style.
He has a very nonchalant and stoic approach to the sport and to the media and to just, it seems like everything in general, which is why I believe he's got the championship caliber and the mental metal to be a champion. But carry on.
So we've seen these comparisons every time, every driver, everything. Like, it never fails. Everybody with Max. Oh, he's Senna-like. He's Senna-like. No, that motherfucker's Schumacher. Straight up. That is Schumacher in a different body. He has that I'm going to crash you or I'm going to win attitude. And that's the same thing that Schumacher had. Now, here comes Oscar. Oscar drives like Hakkinen. A lot. Like, very much so. And it's fucking like, holy shit. And if you go back and look through history, the one driver that always gave Schumacher the most amount of shit was Hakkinen until Alonso came along. And
Hakkinen, yeah. I fully coincide your
real
point.
Fucking interesting.
I actually do. I completely agree with you that he is far more like Mika Hakkinen than Kimi. Like I get it, like the comparison for maybe his approach with the media and
like personality wise, they're similar.
Yeah, so I get the comparison for that, but Jay, like you make a very good point about his actual driving style. His behavior on track is Mika. Behavior off track, Kimi.
Yep. And realistically, with like just perfect example is what was that, Monza? That pass on the outside going through there, that was straight Senna shit. Like, no questions asked. That was a fucking Senna move. And
I can almost promise you that he's watched the tape and that he just replicated something that he saw, because
absolutely.
Oscar is a student of Formula One and he can replicate and mimic other drivers' driving styles. And it's what makes him so versatile. It's what makes him so talented, actually, is that he doesn't have a set specific driving style. You don't know what kind of pass he's going to make. He's going to take lessons learned from all of the greatest drivers in Formula One and replicate what he's like watched onto the track in real life. It's what makes him, I think, in my opinion, one of the most exciting drivers in Formula One. And it's why I'm such a huge fan of him. Carry on, Jay.
So I will say this now, and I don't care who the fuck disagrees. If Red Bull can keep Max in a car that's competitive because of what you just said, there's people that will disrupt him, but there's not going to beat him. Like Max, if Max takes it that far, he'll retire in 28. Like, I have no doubts. At this point, I think
so. Yeah, I think so as well. I think he's going to try to chase a few records, some of Lewis's, some of Michael's, He's gonna he'll have one record that he'll chase, but then he'll ride out in the sunset after he breaks it. I think that there will just be something that he puts in front of him, and he's like, okay, that's the goal, that's it. Now I'm Red Bull ambassador, and making money for the rest of my life.
So I don't even necessarily know if he'll take an ambassador role for Red Bull. I think he'll just fuck off into the distance and be done and just run Redline. Like, I really think so.
Yeah, just do a sim racing and build a sim racing team, or build like some kind of sim racing platform or something with sim racing. It would be in his feature after Formula One. I think it's the only logical output for him. He'll still have to do something, right? Like you can't leave for good. None of these guys really truly can. You look at like all the greatest Formula One racers from the 70s. So like everybody tries to stay in as long as they can, and stay around in a company. And I think he'll have a role like with Red Bull till he doesn't want to do it at all anymore. But I do think that like he'll eventually graduate towards like some kind of sim racing game or platform or something that he designs and creates himself, because he's too focused and locked in on that. And like if that's your passion, and really like obviously your passion outside of the grid, and the only thing that you want to do when you're not driving, like I think we'll see like a Max Verstappen designed simulator in racing simulator. At least I hope, because Gran Turismo is getting boring. Assetto Corsa Competizione is fun and a good simulator with a wheel and pedals, but commercially we don't have many other like racing simulator options. So
no.
Gran Turismo is too arcadey nowadays. I don't know if any of you guys do racing sim, but Gran Turismo feels like a fucking arcade game, even after the adjustments to the updates that everybody cried and bitched about. I'll warm up with the Assetto Corsa and do a race for like 20 minutes, and then I'll go switch to Gran Turismo because it's so much easier after. We were discussing Fabian, welcome back, but we were discussing like Max's future and like his plans for retirement. I think after he retires, we're speculating 2028, but I would think that he would want to create, design, engineer a more realistic driving simulator. So I'm hoping for that.
I would not be surprised
but yeah,
if you saw Formula One, you saw EA go for a branding a la Madden style of F1. That would seem logical. It would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
It would bring, because the product itself is very good. Okay, it's a very good product. I mean, it's been a little different from 20 to 24. There's been if you own them all.
Yeah, the racing dynamics are getting much better and more realistic. In the earlier 2020s, like again, it felt like an arcade game. Like Gran Turismo sort of feels still, even after the physical upgrades that they've made.
But Verstappen's
F1 24 is actually very legit, and a really great game to go play. Yeah.
And Verstappen's name tied to that and his technical input into it, especially because of his deep roots in the sim game, just as a sim driver, as someone that is in that software, he's in those menus, he's doing the setups and all the different things. He's got an innate knowledge of how that works for the end user side of it, which is where the important disconnects lie, right? So I think that EA would absolutely benefit from that. It would be a cash cow for them to pop his name on that thing. It really would. even more so than anybody else ever. Because again, Lewis is an absolute 100% non-advocate of using the Sims. He has a fundamental disconnect between what he thinks the sim is going to do and transmit to him versus what the real car does on the road. Max is the 180 opposite of it. Max is all about doing the sim type work casually and professionally, and he sees it differently. And there's a lot of other drivers that have the same two exact opposite opinions, but I've done a lot of research on this and read a lot of information from both of them.
If I may interject and ask a
Yeah.
question, do you think that opinion from Lewis is based upon like past technology, right? Like in the middle 2000s, coming 2010, 2011, 2012, where he was forced to go into these sims when he was with McLaren. He was like, this is fucking stupid. You know, it doesn't make any goddamn sense. Whereas Max comes in like post 2012, where the technology is caught up, and then like the value in that technology and that sim like exists now. So
Absolutely.
I would wager that Lewis probably is tainted and jaded by elder technology and just didn't get a good sim setup, and then has a bias like implicitly now that it's like, yeah, no, it's just fucking dumb. Also, between Mercedes and Red Bull, and the way that, like, I believe Red Bull and Newey designs the car through the sim, and like that's an integral part of their design process. Whereas Mercedes, it's like we design the car physically, and then we'll try to replicate it in the sim, and then you figure it the fuck out.
Yeah,
and it's like that's dumb. It doesn't work.
There's a lot of truth.
Like I need to drive the physical car, tell you the shift to balance between the front and rear wheel, and I needed to correct it physically. The computer shit doesn't work.
You nailed it. Okay, and you realize, as you well know, technology, the acceleration of technology and the value of that curve is so fast nowadays, right? So Hamilton's issue with the Sims has always been that no matter how advanced they were at the times that, you know, he was being introduced into them, they didn't replicate the sensations and dynamics of a real car on the track. Things like G-forces, the subtle tire feedback, you know, real life track conditions and things of that nature. That stuff changes.
Even sounds and noises. So I don't know if you ever watched a video of the Red Bull sim, but the sounds and the noises is something that stood out to me, is like a point of analytics where like they get it exactly fucking right. Like it is a true simulation. Like the sound is a very big thing for a driver, because you react, you respond, and you move the steering wheel based off the sound.
Right.
Some of it is feeling, motion, momentum, but then
And then Max's gift is his ability to go on virtually any software on any rig, right? And adapt his knowledge and innate skill to that specific scenario, and then capitalize on that scenario and still get back in a real car and reconnect everything back to that car like in a symbiotic way. And it's not like degrading or taking away from his skill set, to the extent that he can do it at wee hours of the morning and then jump in the car and, you know, go win and run a sprint race, right? So they're different animals with different skill sets, two different windows of time with the technology. It's really fascinating stuff.
No, I love it. It's all good stuff. It's a good conversation. Sorry if we bunny trailed and rabbit holed a little bit away.
Bro, your bunny hole is so deep. They're asking for a fucking tip. Like seriously. Where I was going with this,
it sounded like you said bung
try
hole,
for
just
Alice.
so you know.
I mean, either way.
Find Alice in Wonderland. Yeah. We did definitely bunny hop and rabbit trail. Go ahead, Jay.
What the original topic is that we keep comparing Oscar to Kimi just because of his demeanor.
I forgot that's where we started.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And I had mentioned that I view him as more of a Hakkinen than anything. And Rich just somehow turned this all the way the fuck around. And yeah.
I agree with your point, Jay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Guys, we're about an hour and 6 minutes, so we will go ahead and wrap. Closing thoughts. What do you guys have as of right now? Predictions for Vegas. Let's go ahead and do this. So, I'm saying Verstappen. Yeah, Verstappen is going 1. He's going to qualify maybe 5th or 6th, but Verstappen's going to podium and go 1. Charles Leclerc in 2nd, and either Lando or Oscar in 3rd. So that's what I've got. Jay, what do you got for Vegas predictions for podium?
So I will disagree with you completely on Max's placement, just because if you have him in 1st, he ain't taking 5th in qualifying and actually getting the 1st. You cannot pass in that track very easily. So I would say
there's 4 DRS zones on that track. There's
but think about how thin that track is and how thin that driver line is.
That's fine.
Okay.
It's fine. Man went from 17 to 1
in a track that you can pass.
Don't tell me he can't pass. But don't tell me he can't pass. My man went from 17 to 1.
Oh, now
you will.
Hear this, Fabian?
He will.
Do you hear
He'll
this?
qualify 5th or 6th. He'll qualify 5th or 6th.
I caught it. My man.
both Ferraris are gonna fucking be in the top 4 in qualifying, and then Checo will qualify 8th. You're gonna have 2 McLarens in the top 8. So like the top 4 for qualifying is gonna be both McLarens and both Ferrari. 5th will be Max in qualifying. Max will take podium. Mark it down.
Okay. Are you writing this down, Fabian? Because I know you like to write it down. So
it's in the sheet at the top.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
it's called co-hosting.
Okay. Anyways,
some kind of
moving.
That was a real nice
right?
little derailment.
Yeah. Anyways, so I can't do this without spitting out conspiracy, and I apologize.
Do it.
I'm starting to wonder if what Horner is saying is not fucking accurate with this water in the tires thing. Because they're talking that it could be less than a fucking milliliter. Less than a fucking milliliter, and it can cool down the tires by 10%.
He would fucking know.
So let's talk about it.
That they didn't try it.
Wait, hold on.
We didn't get to the conspiracy corner, so let's talk about this right now.
Can we finish our guesses first before I lose track of all mine?
No,
Yes.
We omitted Jay's conspiracy corner, so let's include Jay's conspiracy corner. Water in the tires, changing the temperature and the balance of the tires. So let's talk about it because there's
1 milliliter of
accusations.
Water.
Even just a tiny amount. Well, that's stupid.
I feel like that would evaporate with the heat so fucking quickly.
Technologically, yeah, that's fucking dumb and stupid, and I don't agree
So
with that. 1 milliliter is fucking retarded.
Hold on. If it evaporates, what happens to water whenever it evaporates?
Creates steam.
Uh-huh. But what does it do after it cools back down?
Freezes.
But if you're puncturing the tire, doesn't that already like fuck with the integrity of it?
So they're not puncturing the tire. They're pumping water into the tire through the valve to keep the tires colder, because colder tires are more performant when the F1 race. I think it was Greg or Fabian that posted the heat video, the thermal camera video of somebody. I joke and say, like, well, yes, 1 milliliter of water is not enough. Okay. Like, that's not enough. Also, they're probably using saline solution, not water, because water will evaporate. Saline will stay more constant. If you injected 250 milliliters of water into a tire, you could significantly alter the performance of that tire. Like a quarter of a liter, like you could absolutely alter the performance of that tire. and its temperature, because water will keep the rubber cool, and it'll float around and circulate through a tire. Who was the one that was talking shit about this, and who's the one that's using this? And Jay, come here on this.
They're saying that McLaren is using it, and Horner's the one that's suggesting it.
Thank you, Meg. Exactly. So yeah, it's an accusation. It may be a baseless accusation.
Oh, I don't disagree. I'm saying let's see what happens.
Or it might be something that every single fucking team does. And it's little jealousy bitch coming out, and Horner being Horner, and like
no, it's not what every
No?
team does.
I don't think
it's
no,
what
it's
Red Bull
literally
used to
against
do. And somebody
before
left
it was
Red
against
Bull,
the fucking rules.
told
What is an
somebody
engineer's
about
job in F1?
this is why we talk about it.
What
Okay.
is an engineer's job in F1? Tell me, Fabian.
dude,
Loopholes.
cheat. What
To
is
find
it?
the loopholes.
Thank you, Meg.
Exhaust the rules
So-
is, I believe, a good way of putting it. Exhaust
If you
the
ain't
rules.
cheating,
Absolutely.
you aren't trying. Simple as that. And it's not
I'm gonna get
cheating
that tattooed
until it's
somewhere.
illegal. So once it became illegal, Horner already said they stopped using it, correct?
Do you
I know
believe,
you read the
think I
article. I
believe
know you
anything
read-
that comes out of
I know you
Horner's
read
mouth?
the article, motherfucker. Don't even try
Do
that.
you
don't
think
believe
that
you
I
read the
believe
article.
anything.
I
that
don't
comes out
believe
of that
anything
dude's
that
mouth.
comes out of Christian Horner's mouth, and I do think, like, on the topic of a conspiracy corner, that it would be absolutely something that he like that I say everybody does, but it might be something that Red Bull and McLaren both do, and he knows, and he's like, okay, well, we're not going to do that now, and we're not performing. Maybe it's for wind tunnel time. We've speculated on that, but I'm going to hammer them on all the bending of the rules that I see that I know that we fucking do too. I know that you're breaking the fucking and bending the rules because we fucking do it too. Right? So I'm going to call you out for everything I can. Flexi wing, bendy wing, like water in your tires, water in your fucking tank, like everything. I'm going to call you out for every fucking rule infraction that I know that we all break because I can. And I think it's strategic.
Please tell me that you guys saw the gap in fucking Lando's wing. Please tell me you saw that shit.
I did.
Like,
I saw that,
Yeah.
and like I was actually like watching a video, and I pushed pause on it, and I was like, "Holy shit!"
I'm shocked
that
nothing has
motherfucker
really
was
come
still
out
as
about
wide
it
as
yet.
my goddamn hand. Nobody
Man,
is saying shit
it's-
because the FIA's probably told them to shut the fuck up about it.
Well, that's what I say. There's bendy wing, and there's water in tires. There's cheats, and the exhausting of the rules that every team does. And Horner just wants to cry and complain and point fingers because he could have
everyone
pointed the
hates
same
Red
fucking
Bull.
finger at himself the year before, but he knows that they're doing it this year. He knows the rule infractions and what people are breaking and what they're doing because he does it himself. And so it's like I'm pointing the finger at me 2 seasons ago for some shit that I used to do that I know you do now. And I
wanna
think
say they
that
were
that's
saying
what's
it was
happening.
2020 they were doing it, actually. But regardless,
Either
it
way.
doesn't matter.
We're in the weeds. We're
Yeah.
way too in the weeds.
So for the bunny
But
hole,
regardless,
back to predictions, because that's where this came up.
can
Yeah,
I
Jay,
finish my
you have
prediction then?
yet.
Yes,
You haven't even
please.
started your
It
prediction.
fed into it.
Ugh.
Lando and Oscar, 9th and 10th.
Ouch! Why are you doing that to Oscar?
No,
Because he
fucking
has the
way.
same
I
car
don't
as
know if you're talking about
fucking-
Haas or Alpine.
Yeah, but I feel like Oscar does really well in street races.
Oscar does very well in street races. He did well in Monaco. He will do
He
well,
did well in
uh,
Baku.
in Vegas. In Baku, sorry.
I
not
ain't got
Monaco.
nothing against. I have
Well,
nothing against
call,
Oscar
Meg.
except for respect. However, what I'm saying is that I want to see it happen because I want to see Zach Brown stuttering everywhere. Why'd your performance fall off this bad? What happened?
Hey,
Just like fucking happened with Red Bull with the whole brake situation. Meanwhile, which team fell off the most after the whole brake thing was announced? Oh wait, that was Mercedes. I forgot about that. Oh damn.
But- funny
Anyways,
trail, Jay.
moving along.
Bunny Trail.
I was going
Charles
back.
Charles
So,
Leclerc.
my podium.
No.
So do you want
I'm
1, 2, 3?
walking you down my bunny trail. Charles Leclerc, P2
Oh my
Drivers
God.
Championship. Charles Leclerc.
I
P2.
agree, 100%.
Let's
100%
fucking
it's
go.
gonna happen.
Charles Leclerc is P2.
You know,
We're
you know what
calling
would
it
make
now.
me even happier? You know what would make me even happier? Oscar P3.
Yes.
That would make me
Yes.
fucking
Yes.
ecstatic.
And yes.
As I said, I want my sign. I want my
Anyways.
graphic. Rise
Anyways.
of Piastri.
All right. Your prediction,
So-
podium predictions for Vegas. All right. We're on task.
Max,
Podium predictions
Charles,
for Vegas.
Max, Charles, and Signs. Though Signs and
Max,
Charles
Charles,
are
Sainz.
interchangeable.
Got you. Fabian, what do you got? Podium predictions. You're
I'm
muted.
locking it down. Yeah, nope, I'm good. I'm the
Or
one-
Meg, if you're ready, you can go.
All right. I think I'm going to see Oscar in P1,
I love it.
Leclerc P2,
Safe bet. Max
and
P3.
either Signs or Max in P3.
There we go. Yeah. Okay. I like it. Fabian, what do you got? Muted.
Yep. No, I was typing this down. I didn't want to occlude the sound waves with all this typing. All right.
Oh, gracias.
So, I got somebody get this down while I'm talking. So, I've got Russell, Verstappen,
Oh shit.
Leclerc.
Okay. Why? I'm gonna probe you. Why?
So Russell's been lingering around, and notwithstanding some strat calls, he's been right there, man. He's been qualifying well overall. The car for him is a pretty decent fit despite the balance issues. He could have easily, have popped. He was in the running to win last week, week before last, whatever it was. He's due for another one. He just seems due for another one. And this one could be it. He actually was competitive in 2023 in Vegas. He was there. He was there until the last lap until he went into the freaking wall, right? Like he was.
Let us not forget the incident with Ferrari. I believe it was Sainz. He hit a drainage piece of metal on the track. They ended up pulling all of them out of the track.
Yeah, the drains.
Yeah, because that Ferrari just fucking exploded.
I feel that the person who has
Was that Sainz or Leclerc?
That
I
was
believe it was
Sainz.
Sainz. Yeah, it was
was
Sainz.
Sainz.
Yeah.
I feel that the
Yeah.
person who has consistently gotten the most out of their car this season in terms of overall finishing position has been Russell. I really
Fair
do.
enough. Fair enough.
Not having one of the best cars on the track, I think he's extracted the most performance out of that car. And I'm thinking that this might be his other podium this year.
Oh,
How
So I'm
many
gonna
races
go-
has
so I'm going
Mercedes
for-
in general one.
Say again.
I'd argue with you, and I would wager Ollie Behrman into that conversation as somebody that's gotten the most out of the car.
Then
Ollie
you have to say
Behrman
Hulkenberg.
is
Actually, you know
Well-
what you can really say? Ocon and
and-
Gasly.
fuck.
Yeah.
As much as I don't fucking want to, as much as I hate the French, just implicitly, I
I'm
hate
so proud of you.
France.
Russell's just
damn it,
been,
man,
he's
they-
been
they-
out there.
They did it.
You know?
So okay, so George Russell, that's I won't call it a
That's a
safe
ballsy
prediction,
call.
but it's not a safe prediction. It's a good prediction, and it's based in fact. Russell did do well. So when we talk about this is the second year for this track.
Yeah.
So when we look at a driver's history and their performance, and when we make these predictions, we want to look at how they performed on that specific track, because certain drivers like Lance Stroll does well in the Middle East, right?
It's
That
just 'cause
fucking
his daddy
dude-
sold his soul there.
and
Sorry.
sold out British motorsport history to the Saudis, ironically. But he does perform well in the Middle East. He just does. Lewis tends to do very well in Brazil and always performs at Silverstone. So, like, those are safe predictions. George Russell at Vegas is an unsafe prediction, I would say. Like, he did his best. He drove. A lot of people struggled learning that track, right? A lot of people struggled learning that track. And I think Oscar is going to be the man. So, Meg, what are your podium predictions?
I gave him.
Sure, he did, dude.
Already?
I'm actually going to
Oh.
change mine because I just went and looked up the previous results from last year. I changed my secondary prediction. The Lando and Oscar in P9, P10.
Which is just rude.
Lando's not going to finish that motherfucker.
Okay, that's fine.
Oscar's going to be in 7th or 8th.
Mm-hmm.
I know your orange loving ass hates me right now, but
A little bit.
it's,
Hey,
Get like an
I-
orange.
factual.
I'm just gonna get an orange lightsaber and just.
The main reason
think-
why
I think
is because I
McLaren
want the
is-
rumors to be true.
I think
About the
McLaren has
tires?
done everything, right? Like, they're doing everything that they possibly can. The car has came together for them. I would expect a strong showing out of McLaren this weekend. Honestly, expect to see Oscar on the podium instead of Lando. But
Yeah, no,
we
Oscar
shall
can
see.
drive the shit out of that car.
Yeah.
I still
I think he's
I
going
still
to
maintain
in
what I
Vegas.
said. I think the car got too it improved way too much over a short span of time for Lando to adapt with it. Oscar never had that issue.
There was a brief point of imbalance with the car, and I do agree with you that Oscar is far more patient than Lando. Lando is constantly trying to prove himself as the number one driver and the competitive max. This has been
Anyways.
Formula One Fans of America, episode 13. I love you guys. We'll see you. We're gonna take a break next week, but we will come back after Las Vegas. I will be in Las Vegas. Big things are coming to the show. Formula One's actually acknowledging us now, and I'm excited. So, yeah, big things coming to the show. Thank you so fucking much, Fabian. Thank you. I love all you guys. We'll see
My
y'all in
pleasure.
a couple weeks, okay? Right
You bet.
after Vegas. Like, tune in and subscribe, like, and share. Thank you.
Faux for forever.